Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them, and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Inquiring minds want to know, Mel. Last week when we talked, you said that you weren't having a lot of feelings of anticipatory anxiety and like body, I don't know.
Death
bleh.
anniversary barf.
Yeah. How did it go? Did that hold true or did it all come caving in?
Well, as everybody knows, you can say one thing and then the opposite will be true in 30 seconds. And that happened to me.
Tell us more.
It was a good day, but I went to make a post about the day, just like remembering Scott. You have to scroll through your photos. And so then it was kind of just like a flashback time of stuff that I already know about. Obviously, I was there, but for some reason, it's like just like a little tender still. You go through it and you're like, I remember that day. I remember that. And then I thought, wow, here's kind of where I was this time out from the grief or from the death. And then this time out from the death. And then I look back on all the 6 years and it's like, wow, holy cow. So yeah, I did feel kind of somber and then tired. So I took a
So you
nap.
say horrible. But yeah, and then you feel that like rip off of what could have been. You're looking through those pictures and it's just like they should have kept going, but they don't. And
I think like what's so weird is that just because we had such a short time together and then it's been a longer time since I've been without him, I'm like, what? So it's
yeah.
it's weird to look at that time because I'm so different. But I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was tiresome, and I've had enough, I guess, mileage of doing things in life, not just laying in my bed like I was for the first few years. So, it was kind of a up and down day with a lot of fatigue, and I'm okay, obviously. But yeah, I wasn't like crying and sobbing and going all the way back to year one. Thank goodness. I don't ever want to do that again. So, yeah. How was your Scott's death anniversary day, Anita? I hope it was
First of all,
fine.
do you hear my kids playing the piano in the background?
No, but that makes me so happy.
Oh, they're really talented. I mean, they're just playing all the notes at once. My Scott's death anniversary was actually exciting as well, Mel, for different reasons. And I posted about this on Instagram, but I took my son to the dermatologist, and while I was talking to the dermatologist about my son's problems, which is that he has a wart on his hand, the dermatologist said, "Hey, do you know you have skin cancer on your face?" And I was like, what? Anyway, and he's like, come sit over here. And he biopsied it right then and there. And it was not what I was expecting. It's not a bad cancer. So it's just like one of those stupid ones. So don't panic, because I know that people in our situation go straight to the worst case scenario, especially because we have friends whose people have died of skin cancer, but like melanoma. Anyway, so now I get to go have Mohs surgery to cut the rest of it off on my face.
Ooh, when?
I know. I haven't scheduled it yet. They just got the biopsy back, and it was what the doctor thought it was. It's basal cell carcinoma, which is just basically ugly cancer. And like it will just grow and grow and take over your face until you look like a
Hobbit.
witchy hag, which, I'm not
I think you should go with it and just keep going.
Yeah, I was well on my way until that dermatologist. I was like, how do you walk through the Costco without just pointing at people? Because I had no idea. Anyway.
Now I'm remembering also about last week, because it was Scott's death anniversary. You had your appointment and we were supposed to do an interview, and I remember being too wrecked. I was, not wrecked in the crying way, but wrecked in a way that we had an interview scheduled, right? And I wanted to make sure that I could be okay enough to listen
Tip top shape.
Yeah, as much as possible to our fellow widow that we were going to interview. And I wasn't. And you were stuck at the
dermatologist
face doctor for not your appointment. So that was a day. Well, how's the rest of your week gone, Anito?
Oh, well, this is interesting because this weekend was Camp Widow in Toronto. And originally we were going to go to that. And actually we referenced this in our episode today. So my son's school play was this weekend, which is why we ended up not going to Camp Widow. And it was great. They did the Lion King. He was Pumbaa. He did an excellent job. The production value of the whole thing was the best.
Perfect.
Like little kids doing. I mean, that musical is kind of complicated. The music is not English words, so it just sounds like nonsense to them, and so it was just really funny and fun. And I'm glad I was able to be there for it. So, and then I was the stage crew for the other cast, which there's a reason that they have people who are professionals at that and not moms. So, but it was
way to serve your community.
Well, it's not. You have to. It's kind of a racket, but. Anyway, that was really great. It was a highlight of my week, and I was really excited about that. So
nice.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I've been busy prepping for some gigs. I'm music directing coming up, so that's all I can remember right now.
I feel like this is the busiest season for musicians.
It is one of the busiest. This is true.
Christmassy time.
Holiday. Yeah. Yep. I have some stuff coming up for that, which is so funny because when Scott and I were deciding when to get married, I said, please, can we get married in January? Please do not have a wedding date in December. Please.
Nope.
I'm a musician. It's the busiest time. And he would not have it. And now it's fine because I'm glad he got what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard to deal with at the time.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, how is this going to go for the rest of our lives? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I only had one more time.
And unfortunately, it's a non-issue now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, we hope that you guys enjoy the episode today. It's kind of a tricky one to talk about. And we just, I don't know. What do you say, Anita?
Yeah, I just want to say that we're not trying to be proponents or opponents of anything, just trying to open the discussion about some of the feelings that we've had. And we hope that nobody is offended by it, because we know that there are a lot of good people who are trying to help widows, and that there's decision making that has to go into that. So just, listen and know that we love everybody. We love all the widows. We love the people who are just trying to we're not in love with scammers or people who are jerk faces, but Yeah, but as long as you're doing your best by the widows and widowers of the world, it's one of those things that's just like everything in life there's a lot of duality in it, and so we try and explore some of the duality of that, the pros and the cons and how it makes us feel, and then some of the practicality of it. So I'm interested to hear your responses. Oh. Or maybe not.
Speaking of widow business, do you want to join the Patreon? Keep the podcast going. Patreon.com/WWDN.
Yeah, and if you just want to send us for tacos, buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
Uh-huh. Thanks to the people who have given us really great reviews that are so kind. We love you so much. We should read some of those sometime because they're really lovely. We do enjoy a chuckle or two on some of the negative ones that are really scathing.
I know, and they're funny too, because I'm like, well, obviously you've listened to one or two or not very many episodes, but some of them, I mean, it's okay. Everybody has their own tastes, right?
Yeah, some of them are opinions, but some, when it's like, these two people are this way, it's like, what? Did you listen to one sentence and take it out of context? Probably.
It's funny. Oh, that's just how it is, though, right?
Yeah.
You gotta take the good, you take the bad, you take it all, and then
that's why I say it's quite entertaining. But thank you to everybody who's been so kind and taking the time out of your day and figuring out how to write a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you so much, and your reviews help other people in the world to know that they might be helped by some of this stuff or not. Maybe you'll hate us.
Oh, and thank you to the people who stepped up for our hangouts this weekend, because we ran into a roadblock we didn't anticipate, and we had people just jump in and help out. And so that's a work in progress, because nothing is working as we want it to. Anyway, so
yeah. Well, thank you.
Should we do it, Mel?
Let's do it. We love
you. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two scared widows, and we're just trying to help you figure out widow.
We
do.
No, I'm so scared.
All right, Mel, are you ready to talk about a topic that's going to make people mad no matter which way you go?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Is that like current mood of Mel? Like, let's burn it down. Let's make everybody mad.
Or like, let's just be like, everybody, here are some facts. You decide for yourself.
The topic I want to talk to you today about is it ethical? Is it right? Is it okay for widows to make money off of other widows?
Ooh.
So I'm curious, like, if I were just to ask you that, Mel, is it okay for like widows to make money off of other widows? What's your gut reaction?
I'll be like, what the heck are you talking about? No, what? Please, some context.
Okay.
Because it sounds really terrible.
Yeah, that's my gut reaction, is just like, oh, no, like that sounds so scuzzy. But let's talk about like some of the ways that this does happen. And then let's talk about if it is okay or if it's not okay and what our opinions are. Okay.
Love it.
Okay. So for instance, there are lots of widows who hold like group coaching sessions about moving forward or dating. That's one example. Mm-hmm. Or like life coaches. There's lots of life coaches out there for widows. There's widows who do like membership groups that you have to pay to be a part of. There's like travel groups that are run by widows and cater to widows, financial planners. And sometimes the people who are doing this aren't widows. So, but they just cater to widows' needs. Mm-hmm. What else? Like, like grief retreats,
t-shirts. Us? Do we make any money off those? Actually, probably not. Like a penny. No.
But yeah, that definitely goes in the category. Can you think of any others? That's all I could think of, but I'm sure there are other examples.
There are more, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on Instagram. I don't know. It's been a couple of months, and one of those Instagram widows was like, "I'm holding a group coaching session." I think it was around dating, and then there was a little fight in the comments, which I love.
Whoa! What?
I love to watch people fight online when I am not involved in it, right? I hate
Yeah.
it when I'm involved in it, but I think it's kind of fun, like, to watch other people fight about it. And I was like, yeah, they both have points. So
Ooh.
yeah, kind of
I,
funny.
I
But
like it on YouTube on videos of like old Sting content where people fight about if Stu Copeland was the best drummer or not. And then people get super mad about it and super defensive. And it's my favorite thing. But it's harder when it's something like this where it's
like,
our life. It's not just something innocuous like a drummer.
yeah,
No
it
offense.
actually matters probably
Yeah.
in the scheme of things. Yeah. So let's talk about why it might feel really icky. Can we start there?
Yeah, let's go down the list. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the things that I think about is like, I hate this in every aspect of my life when I feel like somebody is being predatory towards me.
Yeah. Same.
Ugh. I feel like that at the dentist. I feel like that at the car mechanic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you feel like they're just trying to take advantage of you. Makes me so upset.
I experienced this when I had to get a new car this year, and the
No.
salesperson was the absolute worst. It made me feel so targeted, and the thing that was funny about it is like, and it totally threw me off, is it was another woman.
Oh.
And so I didn't see it coming, but I've never been so like pigeonholed in my life.
That's funny because I kind of had the same experience, but then I had somebody with me who like turned it around. And then I felt like really happy that he turned it around, but then also like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, I would have gotten taken advantage of and I wouldn't even have known.
Yeah.
So,
well, these things too that we're going to talk about, they all have to do with sales and money. And that's why it can feel how it feels. So there are certain tactics. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about that specifically because, like, in this Instagram post, we come from Utah, right? Which is like the capital of the MLM, the LuLaRoe. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
I know. And if you have had great success in your MLM, like, kudos to you. But the statistics tell us that most people lose money in an MLM. So, I mean, that's like fact-based. That's not emotion-based. So I don't know. I have a real ick factor when it feels like girl bossy. Do you have that same like response to things like that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when people on Instagram will be like, if you want to know more about this, whatever, comment, move forward below. And then they don't list the price. They don't list the details. They just ask you to sign up for it, or ask for more information. And that like whole strategy just puts me off so much.
Yeah.
But that's like what they tell you to do, Yeah.
Here is what I have to say.
Yeah.
I have created and have had to, well, I actually like have a hard time with this part because of the tactics that you're supposed to use.
Yes.
Online piano course for jazz piano. It's a classical pianist, specifically no, I don't want to use the word targeting because I'm like, well, I feel like I'm actually providing something that is beneficial to some people if they want to pay for it. It is taking classical pianist knowledge and helping them turn it into jazz and gets them to a certain point. Now, I didn't know how to build an online course, so I paid for a course to help me do that. And it was like, here's the steps, here's what you do, here are the strategies, here's the marketing psychology behind it. And as I was going through and I'm like, yeah, I get all of this. I just personally really have always had a hard time crossing a line where I'm like, but at the same time, I have to make money to survive. And so I'm like, here's what I have learned. And of course, like once I've learned it, then I see it everywhere because it's everybody's strategy, right? And what they tell you is you need to find the pain points of these people and you need to speak to them. Okay, great. So for classical piano, like what's a pain point, right? This is not like in the widow realm. This is just for like a skill.
I can't play piano good. That's the pain point.
And the common things are, well, I have tried to look for ways that I can translate my piano playing into jazz. I can't find it. I don't have the right fit, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'm just like, I get it because I've been there in that situation. So I didn't feel icky about speaking to that because it didn't come from a place of taking advantage of anybody. Now, I really struggled. Actually, the part for me that took the longest was trying to figure out pricing because I just have always struggled with it, right? And it's like, yeah, if you're in business, you better go for the dollars, but you also have to be comparable to what's out there. You want to put your product at a price that makes it seem like it's valuable. So it's like, yeah, I could sell it for $10, but nobody will buy it. Well, then if I say this is $897, people are like, that's valuable. I'll buy it. So there are those things where it's like, what's the perception out there? What's the marketing psychology? Here's how people do things. The average reading level and comprehension of the general public is 9th grade. Speak to that, right? So there's a whole thing about all of that. So then making it makes you feel icky if it you have to go against what your intuition is or how you approach life. And I see this a lot. I mean, this is every online thing ever, right? And that's the hard thing. It's like, what's the line between taking advantage of somebody or is it serving somebody? Because that's the way that like the courses tell you to present it. They're like, you're serving people, which I agree with. And when we get to talking maybe about widow coaching, I have things to say about that because I'm actually
one of those.
I am a certified life coach. I don't have a program that I have started from it, but it's like, there's just a lot that goes along with it and things that help people, but you have to make money to survive. Yes, Anita.
So in those like how to do this courses, they told you to do some of those things, right? Like don't list the price up front and make it like play the social media game. And there's all the algorithm stuff that goes into it. Like the more people comment. So, I mean, there's reasoning behind that, but it doesn't change the fact that it makes it feel like very, I don't know. It just makes it feel uncomfortable for me. And maybe that's like a generational thing because I'm, a little bit older than maybe some of the younger
than me because we're 2 years apart.
Well, I mean, like I think about my kids, like my daughter, it might not hit the same for her generation as it does for mine. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
so here's the thing though. It's like every business that sells a product does this. And so what's the difference between thinking this way about widow stuff and a Stanley cup?
Well, I will tell you, like when you're talking about your piano course versus coaching for widowhood, like a person wants to play the piano because they want to play the piano. A widow is in that situation because it's her nightmare or his nightmare, so it feels like you're taking advantage of a situation that we did not ask for. And when you talk about pain points for piano, like those are pain points, but like what,
but not like widow.
Yeah. Like you're not like pushing on their very like soul crushing, you know what I'm saying? The pain points are much different, but the marketing can be the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah. That's where I think it's different. Like a Stanley Cup, who cares? Your husband didn't die. So
it's interesting too, because I mean, you and I, for a long time, you and I are both kind of, I don't want to say funny about money, but we're funny about money, even though we're like, well, we put a lot of time into this. Like we have to keep this going because it is helping people. And we've tried to be thoughtful and maybe we're slower in some ways with, some of those things that like a business person might say to do because of that, right? Because we're really, really cognizant of the fact that our friends are like us and they are broken. And when you're broken, you're extremely vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable and you're in the acute stages or even, past the acute stages of widowhood and grief, you sometimes spend money where you otherwise maybe wouldn't. And so we're conscious of that because we are that. Yeah. That's hard. But then you're a widow and you were like, my entire life is grief. I can speak to that. I can help people.
That
maybe
true. Well, what you just said though was something that I think is so true. It's like, I'm in the worst possible emotional state that is imaginable. And you're going to dangle out in front of me something that's going to make me feel better. Am I going to spend money on it? I might. Am I going to spend money on it more than I would if I was in a better place? Maybe. So that's another, like, just because of the situation that it is, it can make it feel like, well, don't do that. And the other thing that's really hard, I feel like, and you talked about this also, is like pricing. And that was part of the argument that was going on that I was watching.
What did they say? What was it about?
Well, it was just somebody saying like, why don't you say how much it costs? And then the person was like, well, this is how much it costs. And they were like, are you kidding me? Kind of a thing. And there was a word used that I think is another, it does not make me feel happy.
Say it.
The word is invest.
In yourself.
Yes. They say, if you, if you're not willing to invest your money in improving yourself or making your life better, then that's your choice, right? And I think the word invest comes with a lot of baggage, because the implication is, well, you don't have to invest. You can, flitter your money away on something unimportant, or you can use it for my program. You can invest it in my program and use it for something that's going to be useful. Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
I think we need to segue into specifically life coaching, because Anita has really strong opinions on this.
I do.
But your sister is a life coach and has helped you so much. So you're a good one to have some insight about the inner conflict.
Yeah. I mean, part of the inner conflict, and Mel's right. My sister is a life coach, and she is really, really good at it. We've had her on the podcast. She has talked Mel and I off of some cliffs. She's talked me personally off of some cliffs, not actual ones, but, just emotional, really hard places. And life coaching, I could call myself a life coach without doing anything. I could say I'm Anita Coyle. I'm a life coach.
You could be a piano teacher too. There's no accreditation.
There's no accreditation. And with that, on the flip side of that, with no accreditation also means there's no recourse. So say like you pay $10,000 to a life coach for a program and it's terrible. Like, you can't go to their organization, their accrediting body, and say, this is malpractice. I can get my license taken away but there's no standards for it. There's no evidence behind it. It's just whatever you want it to be can be. That being said, I think there are some amazing life coaches out there, and even widow life coaches. Like, I know several of them, and I think they do really amazing things with thought work around the situations that we're in. So that's kind of the push-pull. I feel like you just made up a word, and then you're charging money for it. So it's an interesting, I don't know.
So this one I can speak to because I've been in the program for it.
Yeah. Well, the program, that assumes there is a program. Like, there's lots of programs.
Right. So I'm going to talk about that actually.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So here's the deal. Here's how life coaching works right now. Now, I remember like way back in the day, 90s and stuff like that. It's like, you might hear the term here and there, but of course, since the internet has grown, then so has different school of life coaches, right? The biggest one is the Life Coach School by Brooke Castillo. That's the one that I did. And I learned about it from your sister because I loved how your sister helped me. And I was just like, I am in this world of helping people. I just am curious in learning about what is going on here. Is this actually helpful? I also believe in psychology, and I really, and same thing. It's like, and I want to talk, I don't want to talk too much about just this point right now because I'm going to get to it in a second, but there are great therapists and there are not great therapists. Okay. Yep. We'll get to that soon. But essentially what the life coach school is a gigantic course that somebody has made and said,
use a different word.
Okay. So essentially it's like the thing is, take this course. First of all, there's a bunch of freebies, right? And so it's just like any business. Here's the free sample at Costco. Do you want to buy this thing? Okay, here are the freebies. I have all these materials. If it's helped you, consider signing up for this course. Well, it's a really expensive course. And I personally, having gone through it, do not think that it is worth the amount of money that it is. People say, and they ask you at the end to give like your testimonials and stuff like that. And a lot of people are like, this changed my life. And that's great. That's so awesome. Or yes, the amount of dollars that I consider this quote training to be is priceless. I would pay double. I would not. Here's what I think it is, because what it does is it's basically CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, but like formed in a way that it's under the life coach school. No, there's no accreditation with any life coach school or modality. You can't even call it a modality, right? But if we're speaking to that, there are just different kind of strains of it. And I don't think it's worth that. It's more expensive than somebody's degree.
Yeah.
Now, what I've learned from it is, because I went into the program being like, hey, I know a bit about what this stuff is about, just from being a client of somebody who went through that school. It totally helped me. But also your sister really resonates with me. Like I trust her. There are people that I have been coached by that are, not her. And I'm like, I don't know if I trust you. And they're saying some of the same things, but it's like the intention is different sometimes. And so when I went into the life coach school situation, I went in with an observation mindset as well. Like, what are they teaching? How are these people reacting? What are the tactics that the trainers are trying to teach us? What have they received from the people above them? What is the founder of the school's most important goal? Oh, to make $100 million. And I'm like, hey, well, great. That's great if you're making money, but you're making money off people and you're telling them that you guarantee you're going to change their life. I mean, that's business, but it's like you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with something that then it kind of like can dip into the psychology world because it is dealing with thoughts.
Yeah.
And so then anyway, that's my perspective just as somebody that's gone through it. Would I do it again? No, I would not do it again.
Interesting. Okay.
I have friends that are so good at it. They help so many people and they help people get from a place to kind of base. I don't know. Maybe they're kind of just floating around to they are starting to now make decisions and they're getting out of a place. And that's the big thing about life coaching. It's like, do you want to be unstuck? Now with therapy, that's a whole different thing. Because that's like, hey, if you are struggling and you are sinking below water level, do not do life coaching. And they say that in life coach training for that particular program. They're like, you have to take a suicide prevention course. Like I think in their way, they're being mindful of those things. But so I've seen benefits and I've seen drawbacks to it. Now with the widowhood stuff, who better to coach a widow than a widow?
True. Totally. I agree.
I don't want to talk. Luckily, your sister is such an empathetic, amazing human that like it worked. Yeah. We clicked. But it's like great widow coaches. There are so many things that I've heard where I'm like, yes. And I don't feel like it's slimy. I don't feel like their intention is slimy. Or maybe it's not for a while. Like there are some people who have really big programs and they're amazing and everybody feels safe and secure and they can trust. And then all of a sudden you can tell that that person is getting to the place where they're going to make like extra money. And then their clients start feeling like, wait, are you just doing this because you are trying to make more money off of me or do you actually care about me? And that's hard.
We've talked about this before too, especially while you're going through the life coaching school, about how life coaching is really about your thoughts and how we talked about sometimes about how like some of this stuff is not based in thoughts. Like PTSD is not thoughts. There are physiologic responses that are not based in thoughts. And so sometimes I get my hackles up a little bit because I think of life coaching as a modality. Like you use that word, like it's something to be used with a whole array of other things. Sometimes that's medication, sometimes that's therapy, and it's can be damaging when we're told, well, you just have to change your thoughts. Just change how you're thinking about yourself shaking in the corner, triggered by something awful. It's fine. So anyway, that's just something else. And this is not like, we're not just talking about life coaches. Like that's not the intention to just talk about that. But
I think this one is so big because that's probably the area that we see that the most is support groups or support, one-on-one support or things of that nature, and helping somebody kind of get through something. So it's sticky because you can spend money and it may not be the best for you, or you can spend money and it may change your life. I don't know.
No. Well, like the other thing that's so hard about this is that widowhood is a great stratifier. I mean, it really divides us even further into the haves and the have-nots. We've talked to so many people who have been put in dire financial circumstances by widowhood. And we've talked to people who are fine after the loss of their partner or their spouse. And this just further kind of stratifies that. It says, oh, you deserve help because you can pay for it. And you, I'm sorry, you don't deserve help because you can't pay for it. And I know you're both desperate, but sorry to the person who can't pay for it, to the person who can't invest in it. I'm so sorry. I used the wrong word. So that feels hard too for people who are really in hardship and are told that they can't get help from those sources.
It's so hard because then you're dealing with social issues, right? And so it's like widows are in poverty level. Some of them are. Widows are more likely to have adverse health effects because of what they've been through. And so, of course, like this would segue into a nonprofit conversation. It's like, that's not a widow business, but it's something that does try to help facilitate social change to better society. I mean, and it's like, so does a business, I guess, helping widow, but because of the nonprofit status and the way that that is all run, those are kind of the two differences, I guess.
Yeah, avenues or whatever. Well, I'm glad you brought up the whole idea of nonprofits, because nonprofit, there's like an assumption that if you're a good widow business that you're going to be a nonprofit, but a nonprofit, it comes with a lot of effort. I mean, it's not like you just sign up to be a nonprofit. You need a board. You're still getting paid. You're just looking for payment from, grants and other sources.
Well, you hope you're getting paid. You get paid after a while if there's funds. Your foundation is getting donations.
Yeah. I just guess that like sometimes we assume that if it's a nonprofit, then it's pure motives. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, if you have a nonprofit, then obviously you're pure motives. But there are nonprofits where they pay their like directors like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and not very much of it goes to the, the cause. So I don't think that that's like a cure-all, like, oh, if they're a nonprofit, then they're obviously have my best interest at heart. And also it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be free. Like take a look at Camp Widow. Camp Widow is run by an amazing organization. It's a nonprofit. They are doing such great work for people. And Camp Widow costs like $500 and is held at a really expensive hotel. Now they do have like, they call them camperships or scholarships, but there's a limited number. And just finding that information and applying for those things is a burden. Like you think about having widow brain and being told like, oh, there's just one more step or two more steps, and then you can go do this thing. So it's not without its own pitfalls, and Camp Widow costs more than that to produce, right? So they charge like it's like $430, I think.
It's subsidized.
Yeah, but the real cost of having you in that ballroom is like $700 or $800. So, I mean, and they're like, I have no qualms with how Soaring Spirits runs its organization. And
we love you guys. Yes, thank you.
But it costs money, and it is still stratifying, or it can be, which is hard.
It's hard. Well, I mean, and then it's like throughout the year, if you run on donations, your energy is spent getting donations so that
Right.
you can then help the people in need. The thing though about nonprofits that's interesting, and I learned this I was doing an online social work program in my research, in my quest for education
It's like,
about
because Mel's
whatever.
trying to have all of the certifications.
Well, I'm just like, okay, here's what life coaching is. Okay, let's go into social work and see what the deal is from this perspective. And it's like even studies with I had to do some research and some interviews and things on people who are recovering addicts or
Okay.
are in need of social programs for finding sites that have facilities that they can use, or being aware of where they can find certain resources to help them.
Right. Yeah.
And even in the nonprofit world, just because something out there is free doesn't mean that people can find it. And so a lot of
Yes.
times in studies that people would do, it's like the rate for people finding these programs is really low because they go, I don't even know where to look.
Yeah.
And it's like, great, well, how do you get the word out? So it's like they operate in some ways as a business. It just is, I don't know. And that's a whole different kind of a tangent. But then back to our widow thing, it's like we're struggling. We have to survive. We are in poverty level, some of us. And maybe all we can think about is being a widow coach. Well, guess what? Like we said before, who better to help widows than other widows? So it's like, okay, Anita, I have gigantic foot ulcers.
Mm-hmm.
Fix me.
So sorry. Yeah.
Can you just fix me? Like, it's going to take you like 8 hours of your day to fix me, but like, can you? Because like, you know how to do it and it's so easy.
Right.
Or Mel, go write an orchestral chart. It's easy for you. First of all, don't know. It's not easy.
I don't even know
I'm
what
just
that
really
is.
good at it.
Yeah.
Like if it's something for an orchestra, you know?
Yeah. I bet you run into this all the time, Mel, because what you provide for people is not a tangible service. You know what I'm saying? Like if you play the piano for somebody or you perform for somebody, like they don't walk away with a Stanley Cup. You know, they walk away with music that got in their ears and now it's done. And so people probably want you all the time to play at events, at weddings, at funerals.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, the whole thing with musicians, it's like there's a joke that's just, it's such a tired joke, but it's true. It's like you wouldn't ask a plumber to go out on a Saturday night and spend 3 hours working from 8 to 11 p.m. on their time off and do it for free. Why would you want a musician to do the same? Obviously, it's a different set of skills, but it's like, okay, I paint the air for people.
Oh,
I paint the air. You can't see it, but you feel it. It adds ambiance. The stuff that I do, it's like a good sound person. You don't realize that they're there until it's bad.
Right.
So it's like, but people don't, if they don't know what they're getting, they don't value it. Now I have people that are like, I know what you do, Mel. I'll pay you whatever you want to come and do this thing. It's like, thank you. So the value is determined that way.
On the flip side of everything that we've just been talking about, I feel like this is kind of where we've crested the hill and we're coming back down. Why would we expect people to give us their expertise and their service for free?
Yeah.
And we know that we are struggling. And so the widows who are doing this, they also need to be able to feed themselves and their family and their dogs. So why would we expect them to come up with a program or go to life coaching school or learn whatever skill they have and then just give it to the world for free? I mean, I don't get, like, nobody's asked me to fix their foot ulcer for free, but I do get a lot of like, hey, my back hurts. Can you give me some exercises for that? And I'm like, well,
What?
I need some details, like why it's hurting, which would require me to give you an evaluation, which would require lots of my time. Like I can't just give that to you without really knowing what you actually need, and knowing what you actually need is effort, you know? So it's like people do kind of expect that from us, but it's kind of a weird thing that they do.
Yeah.
And it can be annoying. TBH.
Yeah. I mean, I know that my friends who have had widow businesses, I'm like, I want them to be successful so that they can provide for their family. I hope that they are doing things as ethically as possible. I hope that for everybody in life, you know, any business, but it's like widows are struggling in such unique ways.
I don't think I've ever actually met, and I'm sure there are some, but I've never or I don't know of any widow businesses like we're talking about that come from a place of trying to take advantage.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely feel like most people who are providing whatever service they are providing is doing it because they think that they have a service that can help people. And they understand the desperation. Like you said before, like, I would much rather have somebody coaching me or mentoring me through this situation who has also been in that situation. You know, am I going to hire somebody who's like, let me teach you how to get back into the dating world? Like, I don't want somebody who's not, I'm not paying anybody to do that anyway, but who hasn't experienced the loss of their partner, you know? So
Yeah. And guess, like, we run our groups, right? It's free, and they're not life coaching, it's just people getting together and being friends. But there is such an important element of community when you are just talking and knowing people, talking to and knowing people that are in a similar situation. And that statistically and like clinically has been proven to help people in their
yeah.
lives, whether it's through a modality or not. It's like community, connection, and belonging. That's where we find support, and then we can grow.
Yeah. But we expect that. Do we expect that for free, or do we expect like the time that goes into the podcast that we make and the Widow Wives Club, like how much time it takes to, administer and moderate that and all of those things? It's a lot of time. Like, we spend a lot of time on this, and we've had discussions, you and I, about doing more things. And there's a point where you say, like, we can't do more things without getting paid for more things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the brass tacks of it. And we have ideas all the time. Like, we would like to do this, but we're constrained by the universe because we have to make choices. And as widows, we have to make I would say the choices can be even more high stakes because we have less time to do the work of two people now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because like, look at your situation. You are a parent by yourself. And so it's like we get asked to speak places, and sometimes we can't financially swing it because we have to pay our own way, because we're probably doing something for a nonprofit or for somebody's business who is not willing to pay us, but just, wants us to come and like basically for exposure. And so, okay, here's Anita with 4 kids. Here's Anita that is the breadwinner. Here's Anita that has the energy, whatever she has at the time. Her kid has a play that's going to conflict with this thing. Is that worth it? Is it worth it for the money that we make for, from people like supporting the podcast? Will it put us in the red so we can keep, or keep us in the black so we can keep going? So it's just like, yeah, you're right. You have to pick your battles and look and see what's going on. But it's extra hard because then on top of that, you have grief. And then you have the grief of your kids. I just have my own grief, which is really hard, right? But it's like, for me, I also only have finite energy. And so I've had to pull back significantly on what I used to do for my job, like touring, traveling. It takes a lot out of you. And so if I did do a widow business sort of thing, I guess, is the podcast considered that? I don't know. Then if I'm going to put the amount of time into it that it would be for like a job, I would need to get compensated so that I can eat. Otherwise, I got to figure out how to make money with music again. More.
I mean, everybody has to deal with resource allocation. And so it's a matter of, do I want to provide this resource? And if I do, what does it take away from something else? And sometimes you have to get paid in order to take that resource away from a different thing. Like, that's just like, maybe it's a sad truth about the universe. Maybe, I don't know if it's sad or not, but it feels hard to make those decisions. And I loved your example. It wasn't from real life or anything.
Yes. I would love, I mean, I've felt like this about piano too, because like, it's something that like feeds my soul to help others learn something, even though, is piano something that's going to help somebody through grief? Maybe, actually, because it helps you to learn things and it gives you a skill that maybe you didn't know that you could ever get. Yeah, it's different than maybe something that's more acute, but I think it's important. And I don't know, I wish there was a perfect world where nobody needed money and
Mhm.
everything was free, I would gladly like give everything, all of my efforts for free if I didn't have to eat. If I could have everything that I needed
Right.
and be comfortable. Absolutely. It's like a
Yeah.
giving thing, but we're not in that kind of world. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I also just want to say, before we ask them what they think, like when we were talking about therapists and you were saying, like they're terrible therapists too. You know what I'm saying? Like there are therapists who've gone through the work and who have the skills, and I would choose a widow who understands my situation over that person who was terrible anyway.
Yeah.
So it's
Me
not
too.
like, I don't know, there's just so much nuance to it. And it does, just because you have a certification that's accredited doesn't mean that you're going to be good and are worth paying. And somebody who might have no accreditation, who just has lived experience, might be the best person and worth paying money to get what they've learned through life's education.
Absolutely. And like accreditation, even like in therapy community, it's like, guess what? I've gone the rounds and found my own therapist in more organic ways. And I've found a therapist where maybe it's a bigger platform that's more well known, which like we know we have sponsors like that. You find everything everywhere. I have had the worst therapist of my life from the way that you are supposed to find a therapist. I've also had one of the best that I've ever had in my life that same way. And then I've had my experience that I've had with an online platform. And it's just like, that's kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Like somebody can be super crappy and somebody can be super amazing and just have gone through the hoops. You can graduate from Berklee College of Music if you get in and pay the money. I know some terrible musicians that have gone there, and I know some of the best musicians that have gone there. Doesn't matter.
Mel and I have talked about this a lot, just about like how we go about this business that we have, the podcast. And I will often be like, I have a firm sense of imposter syndrome. Like, I don't have anything to offer. I don't have any certifications or anything and Mel is usually the more voice of reason, who's like, Anita, like you do have all sorts of experience. Like, look at all of the people you've talked to and all of the experience you've had through the podcast and through public speaking and all of these different things. And it just reminds me that it's not just about certifications. And my hope is that people look at us and our intentions are visible. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we put all this time and all this effort into this. We're not here to get rich or to, you know what I'm saying? Like, and if we were to introduce things that needed to be paid for, that we'd put in the effort beforehand to let you guys know that like we genuinely care about you. And if we offered something like that, it's because we really think that we would be able to help you. And we also can't do everything for free. Like, that's just kind of like we've talked about. It's not feasible and practical in a widow's life. So
yeah, it's the whole conversation. It's interesting. Nuance. That's where it lies. Everything's in the gray and everything is nuanced.
So now that we've made all the life coaches mad,
except for serial killing, just don't be a serial killer. Thanks.
Yeah, don't do that. And really, like, I don't have any problem with life coaches.
I mean, I hope we didn't make the life coaches mad. I mean, I get it. Like,
yeah.
Oh, they're amazing ones.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we didn't make anybody mad, but we'd love to hear what you guys think about this kind of a little sketchy subject in the Widowives Club. Let's keep it respectful.
Send it to Anita because she likes the fights.
No. I just like to witness the fights, but not in our own group because I feel responsibility for that group. So I don't like fights there. Don't fight in the Widowives Club.
Also, let's not turn it into the religion one because we did have some fights about that one. So everybody be nice to each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for talking to me about this, Mel. I think it's really interesting.
Anytime.
Okay. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows. Give us all your money.
And let's join a cult.
Yes.
I'll give you a 5% discount and you can sin as much as you want.
Serious?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're just trying to figure out widow.
We
do.
Now. This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks. And so you don't have to pay extra for that. And you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.